All right, here we go. The Nick Bob Podcast is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. Pella of Omaha and Lincoln wants every homeowner to have the best quality windows and doors, and they're willing to bet $100 on it. Call the Omaha or Lincoln showroom or go to PellaOmaha.com to find out how you can get $100 and new windows and doors, starting at $122 a month. Big shouts out to Pella. And big shouts out to the Brickway, Cut Spike, Lucky Bucket family. It's slowly but surely, like, this whole table is just getting, like, filled with booze. Like, before we know it, it's just going to be, like, so much booze.
Do you have something you need to tell me, Nick?
I do. I love Brickway, Cut Spike, Lucky Bucket. They're fantastic. Had a few Brickway Pilsners the other day. They were great. We got all these whiskeys here. Make sure you go check them out. They're located in the Omaha La Vista area, 4 blocks south of 120th and Giles. Shouts out to the Brickway, Cut Spike, Lucky Bucket family. And we're brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems, the Solaire authorized distributor for Nebraska and Iowa. Solaire is the leading American manufacturer of air compressors. So for any and all air compressor needs, go to peerlessenergy.com. That's peerlessenergy.com. Okay, game recap pod. That's Bo Ruud. You might know him from Lincoln Southeast, Nebraska, or Big Red Wrap Up,
yes,
the superstar. You did great. I love the fact that the club got brought up numerous times by
the worlds are mingling, right? So
worlds are colliding.
The world of Big Red Wrap Up just intermingled right with the Nick Bob podcast.
I love
and
that.
The recap pod. So it was
that.
Pretty cool to see that.
I got a bunch of tweets during the game. So Nebraska gets blown out by Indiana 56-7. I got maybe 15 tweets of being like, is the club closed this week? We'll address that in the midweek pod. But I would say, let's just say the county health inspector came in and they saw a lot of issues.
Yeah, guys, the club's in trouble.
The club is in big trouble. Yeah. So can I start with, like, I don't like, I guess we could call this a rant, but, like, I'll start with a rant and then we'll get into some things here. So I just want you to sit back and listen to this. Because 56-7, Indiana wins. I mean, we've all seen that game a million times now over the last 10 to 15 years. Big game, big stage, completely outplayed, completely embarrassed. We've talked about the dragons you need to slay, turnovers, close games, and kind of the big stage, big moment performances. Certainly that dragon came in there and medium well, player. Medium well. But Indiana,
good to see you guys again.
That's pretty much what it was. Indiana was better at every single spot. They were better in every single phase. And here's the thing about this game, this blowout loss, for me, is it's really hard to explain this one or rationalize this one or justify or make excuses for this one, because it's Indiana. It's not Ohio State. They're coming this week. It's not Michigan from a year ago. It's Indiana. Indiana hasn't won more than 8 games in a season in 50 years. Yeah. This is Indiana. So there's that. And then there's the fact that this is Indiana in year 1 of a new coach. Indiana's Big Ten record. Here, I looked this up. Indiana's Big Ten conference record the last 3 years. They are combined 3-24. They went 0-9, 2-7, 1-8. Yeah. So this is Indiana, a team that and a program who pales in comparison, obviously, in the history, tradition, investment, commitment, resources to Nebraska. In year 1 of a new coach, and they beat the tar out of Nebraska by 50. And they're now 7-0, and they are in potentially a great spot to make the college football playoff. So I think the thing that's hard about this is how come it's just, again, and you do this stuff, then you drive yourself crazy, but, like, how come Indiana can get lightning in a bottle and get it going and win big and look great right away, but Nebraska can't? Because it's frustrating, like, as either a fan base, a media member, or whoever is invested in Nebraska football, when we get upset or disappointed or emotional about a blowout loss or Nebraska underachieving or Nebraska not winning at a consistent level over the last handful of years, we get kind of shouted down of, like, hey, listen, man, come on, patience. Are you kidding me? Yeah. This thing takes time. Don't be ridiculous. What, you thought this was going to happen like that? Come on, man. What are you, stupid? Do you know anything about football? Well, then you see that and you go, well, what the hell? You know, so I think for me, as I watch that game unfold, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this is getting really old. And that's a tough one to spin. That's a tough one to explain away. That's a tough one to rationalize. This is Indiana, year one of a new coach.
Yeah.
Were you feeling like that? Or how?
I think you said explain away. Like you said, this one feels hard. I don't know a way to explain this one away, right? So this one sort of defies any logic I had coming into this moment, right? Yep. So getting beat by a team that's better than you, even if it's bad, if it's Michigan, like I can understand that, right? Even on paper, up until the moment of about midway through the second quarter, the second half, I thought we had a talent advantage. And so I'm sort of searching right now. I don't have a good answer to explain, like, why can they do it and can't we? I have no idea. I have no idea why players from James Madison can be better than players from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Moving coaches, like going to a new place in the first year. I have no idea how Indiana, who doesn't have our history or resources in football.
Yep.
That's more like a basketball thing.
Yes. It's
like they're more like us. Their basketball is more like our football program.
100%.
It's more of like their basketball program. I mean, their football program is more like our basketball program.
It's literally bizarre. Like Indiana's a basketball state.
Yeah.
They love basketball, and Indiana's a basketball school.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the main thing. Explain away, because that's what we've all gotten really good at over the years. Explaining away why. Well, Bill Callahan didn't work. I mean, he was an NFL guy. I mean, come on. Bo Pelini. Well, I mean, he's all first-time head coach. Just emotionally wasn't built to deal with it. Mike Riley, career 500 coach, 62-year-old guy. Come on, what'd you expect? And then what individual games like Michigan last year? You're like, well, come on. I mean, yeah, it's a blowout, but I mean, they won the national championship.
And then other games that we've been losing, at least for the last 5 years, have been this close, right?
Yes.
So the explain away is we play the if game. If we just don't do, it's one. There's no if game this week.
Yes,
they destroyed us. It wasn't close.
No,
and Signetti mentioned this in the post game on the the big noon post game show. He said basically he's like, well, he wasn't trying to pump it up too much. He's like, some things went right for us, and then about we just broke their will and it got away from them. He said we broke their will.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, Indiana broke our will in the first half of a football game. Like that is
it's alarming.
I don't know how you explain that away right now. Right?
I don't either. I don't. We can sit here, even if you're the biggest Gary from Grand Island, who is just has Husker memorabilia. He has a napkin signed by Tom Osborne. You can be Gary from Grand Island, but still look at that and go, that was bad. And that was alarming. And what's crazy though is I'm not sure I've ever had a game quite like this in that, I sincerely, genuinely, honestly thought Nebraska was going to win that game.
I was confident going.
So was I. I can't. And so to think that a team is going to win a game and they get beat by 50 and it was a joke is leaves you kind of going, questioning, like, what?
Yeah. So
what do we know? What did we think we know? What the hell?
I think there's a couple of ways to look at this, right? So there is the let's overreact to the moon right now, which is never a good idea. I always think that's probably you're getting away from the truth if you overreact too much, right? We've seen us be good. We've seen us we saw what we did against Colorado. Like we saw it with our own eyes. Like that's not like it didn't happen.
They were 5-1 going into this game,
and even Illinois, which was play well, but it wasn't like this, right? No. So there is a part of me that says, okay, like maybe we're not that team every week, but we're capable of slipping there, right? So so I think the season is still is not a disaster right now, right? We're 5-2. The season is not a disaster.
Totally.
But the reality is the reality check is we needed to take a hard look in the mirror to maybe we're not quite where we thought we were. And we still need to we need to approach things differently. And whatever approach they took going into this game was wrong because they were not ready to play. They had zero juice. They looked physically slower and less, like there was no juice or burst out of anybody the whole game. So I don't know what they were like sleepwalking into this game.
Yeah. There wasn't even, other than maybe my boy Canton a few times, I can't point to one individual player that even like
nobody flashed.
Not even one play, one moment, one thing, like zero human beings. Like I wrote at the end of my little rundown, 0 game balls this week. Like I don't even know how you could muster up giving anybody a game ball.
If you had to, it's Fedoni because he's the only guy that showed up.
The only guy that like did some things we go, oh, okay. Like, yeah. So maybe Fedoni had like maybe 2 to 3 plays where you went, nice play.
He made it like a hard play, or he did something like besides
a big important moment, something, whatever. But other than that, it was like, and I mean, don't get me started. I don't know why. You know, you have like what was it? Remember in It's a Wonderful Life, that little handrail that like just like something like, you know, it's like, Mary, you know, I don't know what
That's the handrail. Oh my god.
Oh, gee, Mary. I don't know what it is. The running back thing drives me crazy. How can Indiana have not one but 2 guys that aren't just like, oh, those guys are maybe a little better? Those guys looked like varsity players and Nebraska guys look like JV. Like, how can Nebraska not have a running back? I'm sorry to be like Mary with the I can't. That's how I feel. When these other running backs, they look like they had real pop, real power, real elusiveness, just like real football players. And then you watch Emmett and Ramir and Dowdell and those guys, and it's like a pillow fight with them.
Nobody's winning the one-on-ones for our guys. They're just not. They're not winning the one-on-ones. Yeah. And you've got to at some point, like, how many carries did we have? What was our I mean, we probably had to have, let's see here, rushing
20, the running backs, because they ended up being, that's the other thing what's funny about this is like sometimes I think Rule speaks out of both sides of his mouth. He talks this talk like they want to be this power running football team, but then they kind of just air it out.
I don't think we can, though. Actually, to me, it's like, I don't know that they can do it. I think with our line, they don't feel comfortable just turning these guys loose. Like they
29 carries total, but I mean, when you look at the running back,
70 yards. I mean, it was
terrible.
That's terrible. That's 29 terrible. For 70. You're averaging a couple yards a carry. I mean,
okay. I feel like I'm already like this. We're 13 minutes in, and my thing is already like my plan is already, because you brought up something and I might as well go there with it on like. When you zoom out and think of a broadly of football, yes, it's about scheme, and it's like here's this scheme, that scheme, the 3-4, the 3-3-5. Here's this offensive pro style spread or whatever. Yeah, zoom out,
yeah.
But when you zoom in, football comes down to winning one-on-one.
Yeah.
Again, like you zoom way out, it's it's all in conjunction, but like all of those things happening come down to mano a mano, I beat you in whatever it is that I'm trying to do. And it was alarming and astonishing, at least for 4 quarters of football in Bloomington, Indiana. Nebraska could not win anything one-on-one. They couldn't. Nebraska gets blocked. Nebraska couldn't block. Nebraska gets tackled. Nebraska couldn't tackle. Nebraska's wide receivers couldn't get open. Yeah. Indiana's wide receivers get open.
Yeah.
One-on-one balls, receiver, DB right there.
Yeah.
Indiana catches and wins that. Nebraska loses that. So we can talk forever about to get that. It's like it comes down to one-on-one, and Nebraska went over yesterday.
That was alarming how many times we lost.
Yes.
Consecutively, over and over, and it just felt...
It's like, get off a block.
I hate saying this. Like, this is where we broke their will collectively and getting beat consecutively 1-1, like it's a competitiveness thing to me. Like that's about being competitive,
right?
Where you don't quit games, and being really competitive is like they might get you once, but like the next time you are bringing it, like you're so pissed off,
right,
that you're never letting that happen again. That's being competitive, and the guys with you, like it drives them crazy if they get beat on something. That's the kind of guy you want to play with, right? So I didn't feel like we had a lot of that out there. It felt like the competitiveness was like, it was a little bit like, oh, this is bad. This is going bad, and that was a little alarming. I've seen them step up other times and be competitive. The goal line stand, Colorado. I mean, these were competitive performances, but like, where did it go?
What happened? And I get sports, sometimes you don't have it or whatever, but to the degree of that was
the degree after a bye week.
Yes.
Playing a big
game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big,
you don't got the juice in the big game. That's always bad.
It's a big game where if you win this game, you are going bowling. Like there was a lot. I mean, there's a lot on the line.
Probably go in the top 15.
Yes. And so, okay, let's kind of get into some of this, because we'll
Meyer,
running back, Meyer.
Meyer is running back.
I want to let's go through the key defining plays, and I want to preface it with it wasn't going to matter. As we're saying, Nebraska was going to lose that game. So as we go through this, let's preface everything with Nebraska was never going to win that game. Okay. But because Indiana scored 56 points, they had 343 yards at halftime. Indiana, I thought, only punted one time all game.
They did.
This was courtesy of Mitch Sherman and his story in The Athletic. At what point from late first quarter to early fourth quarter, Indiana scored a touchdown on 6 consecutive possessions, excluding the 22nd possession to end the half. I mean, they averaged 6.5 yards per carry, 9.3 yards per pass attempt. So just keep that in mind as we potentially relapse. We're not even going to relapse into the if game. This is almost like, we now
it can't be an if game. There was no potential for it to be
that's what I'm saying.
game.
Like, this is how we know we're like making progress. Like our counselors are like, wow, Nick and Bo really made progress
this
here.
Week we were good.
They're really, I feel good about marking for the chart. They admitted that even if ands, buts with that game, they wouldn't have won. It's progress right there. So let's get into it. Okay. Indiana's first drive, 3rd and 1, shotgun, quick pitch to the short side. Their running back cuts back, 43-yard run. There's a guy that had a lot of bad moments in this game. Singleton took a really bad angle and had a really bad tackle attempt there.
Yep.
4th and 2 at the 14-yard line. Indiana goes for it. This is all in their first drive. They kind of zig motion and they run a little kind of a slant, skinny post.
Yeah.
Easy, like just easy.
Too easy.
Way too easy.
Was that on Tommy?
I think it was.
Tommy is out there for a while, and he maybe shouldn't have been again.
I wonder. I mean, as someone that has had plantar fasciitis, like, I don't know how that injury's brutal.
It's bad, but like I said, being out there, if you're out there, look, there's no excuse. Like, you're out there. Right?
If you're out there, you're out there.
And Tommy's a guy like I don't know. The times I looked at him, he just wasn't moving fast enough.
No. Then we had what was maybe like, this play made me go, uh-oh, is it going to be one of these days? Ja'Cory Barney's kickoff catch goes to the corner at the 1-yard line, catches it, and falls out of bounds. So Nebraska's very first drive after giving up 7 points starts at the 1-yard line. It felt eerily similar to the Cam Taylor-Britt
Nick.
punt catch at the 1-inch line at Illinois.
I can't tell you how quickly that flashed in my mind.
Yes.
It was a millisecond.
Yep.
There's the Cam Taylor, it flashed. Illinois flash, and I thought to myself, oh no, and I don't want to jump to this game was over after that play. I think that's not
it's
fair,
probably not entirely fair.
But psychologically, we were really starting the downward spiral. I think it may have started it where it's like, this isn't our day.
There's something about, I do believe in there are tone-setting plays to the good and to the bad.
Mm-hmm.
This is a tone-setting play to the bad.
Yeah.
And now, because now you just got marched down the field and you're down 7-0. And now basically, for all intents and purposes, your first drive is just try to get out of the shadow of your end zone and like have it and punt it away. You know, like
and Nick, let's make a important point in this. I do think that's true for teams that are not extremely like great teams. That doesn't matter,
right?
Fragile teams,
it matters.
It matters.
It matters.
And we are still in the fragile team state. I mean, that's what we are.
Right.
We're a team that if it doesn't go well, it matters.
Right.
Like instead of like the best teams can make that play and they come out and they go, whatever.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, they don't care. Right. They got Patrick Mahomes. They've like, we just won a bunch of Super Bowls. What we're going to do, that doesn't affect them. Not like it affects us. We're not there. Like that type of mentality shows me that we're not there because I could feel it. We all felt it.
Yes.
You know, they felt it.
Yes. And I mean, there's whether it's that one or even in the second half, back-to-back bobbling kickoff catches.
Yeah.
Those are just like for the moment in time where Nebraska's in, those are really bad morale killers.
Yeah.
So, okay, Barney's kickoff debacle. Now, what's amazing is Nebraska does get a 4th and 2 stop on the ensuing drive with a Bayer blitz. Now, did you see Klatt had it? Yeah, they had a guy in the seam wide open, but still, they get a stop. Nebraska's now second drive. They march it down the field, 4th and 1 at the 12. You know what they're going to do? They run up in there. They like we talked about it. Like we like that. You know what they like. Got to have it. For here comes they're getting heavy package. Here comes the ISO with Dowdell. Dowdell probably had the first down, but fumbles. And Ja'Cory Barney, that play made you go, uh-oh. And then that play right there, the fumble made you go, it might be one of those days.
Yeah.
Because it's frustrating where Nebraska had the first down. Maybe they score. Maybe they tie it at 7. Again, like we started at the beginning of this whole conversation, it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. But maybe the
game goes differently. Probably. We don't win the game, but it goes.
But it probably goes differently. The couple of things with that. 2 things I want to with that moment. It is still frustrating. We can't get so used to the fact that it is. We can't normalize. That's what I'm normalize. When you're at the 12-yard line and it's 4th down, you don't kick a field goal. Let's not normalize that, guys. Like, we need to every time call it out. Yes, we all know that it's true. They're like, I don't know if they're going to do a field goal. Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's points right there. But because you don't have confidence in it, you don't do it.
Yeah.
That's now against Purdue. There were 2 trips deep into the red zone where because they didn't have confidence in their kicker, they went for it and didn't get it. Came with 0 points, and now this one they come with a turnover. The other thing that was kind of just a little thing, as I'm just upset with everybody. Why did Rule call a timeout there? Did you see that? It was 4th and 1. They line up in their heavy package. They call timeout, and then they line up and do it again. Like it's like you don't know. I thought we kind of established what you do in those spots. Like if anything, you're giving them a chance to catch their breath and totally load up on what's coming. I didn't like that. Okay. Indiana's next drive after the turnover. Mano-a-mano. 28-yard back shoulder fade over Sayer Wright. Give me that. 35-yard back shoulder fade over Marquise Buford. Give me that. And then an RPO swing pass to the wide receiver. Blocks him in, cuts him in. Touchdown. 14-7. Easy. And a lot of that is just, again, what we say? 3-3-5. Oh, you got to run fit. Sayer Wright got beat one-on-one. Marquise Buford got beat one-on-one. And then it's great corner. I mean, you got to be able to take on
more of it, too. They're going to see more of it now. Once you show weakness, guess what? It's coming.
Nebraska does answer on the next drive. 13 plays, 75-yard touchdown drive. Big shout out to Fedoni. Did you see his little sequence at the end? Yeah. He whiffs
with Harburg,
and then gets right back and just
pancakes
mauled a guy. Like a bear coming out of the woods after a moose, like just mauled it. I love that.
If you miss one, then the next time you come, like that's where
that's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about.
It's competitive, at least. Like he put a guy in his back too.
Yes,
he like that to me was like, okay, like there we go, right? Like,
and at that point, I'm not gonna lie, like it's 14-7, and you kind of go, okay, it's 14-7. After all this crap, settle in, right?
Yeah.
Indiana's next drive. It's a huge play here. Nebraska gets Indiana early to 3rd and 8. They might get off field. Instead, another back shoulder fade, 22-yard back shoulder fade to number 13 for Indiana. That was a good player. This one was over Tommy Hill. So now it's Sayer Wright, Buford, Tommy Hill, all getting worked. Then right after that, another 12-yard pass. This was the drive where MJ Sherman had a roughing the passer at 1st and goal at the 9, which moves it down to the 3-yard line, and Indiana scores on a little like inside fullback little dive. And it's all of a sudden 21-7. Nebraska goes 3 and out.
And we haven't felt that yet. Like, we haven't felt being down by
multiple scores. Yeah, you're like, ugh, okay. So needed an answer. Nebraska goes 3 and out. So with Indiana up 21-7, this is where all of a sudden they got gashed on the ground. 29-yard run on the sideline. Singleton, another missed tackle guy. Just his burst and the stiff arm just looked real. And then it was the 31-yard touchdown run where, if you remember, it was kind of a jump cut, and then it was like one of those runs in the middle where it was like when the running back popped through, there was nobody except Singleton that was, again, felt like 12 yards off the ball and took a bad angle and couldn't even touch him. So a 31-yard touchdown run, and all of a sudden it's 28-7.
Yeah.
Basically one more thing. Second half opening drive. They drive it down the field. But Badoni makes a couple big plays. 4th and 8 from the 14. Dylan Raiola intercepted, gets returned 78 yards. Luckily, Michael Myers ran homeboy down. 78 yards down to the 19-yard line. 3 plays later, Indiana runs that little pick play, and they have a wide open wide receiver who just catches it and walks in. And at that point, it's 35-7. And I literally stopped taking notes.
Of course, because it's over, right? Like, it was game, set, match within the first drive of the second half. You know, it's like, that's embarrassing. That is unbelievable. But that's what just happened yesterday. The defense had no answers. And then, Dylan had a really rough game for him, right? So this was the first time we saw Dylan completely out of his comfort zone, forcing it. Even like little things. I mean, we can dive into this more. I didn't know how you wanted to lay this out, but just some things where maybe like he's not like as sharp as he needs to be right now in some areas. Like Joel Clapp pointed out, like the fake was like little things like that. It's like, oh, that's not good. Right. So I just feel like he just seems like he's getting out of his groove, whatever what his thing is. It felt like he was pressing for the first time.
We'll talk about that after we talk about Pella windows and doors, because I always love it when people come up to me and talk about, I went to Creighton's practice and even Nebraska's practice, and there people are bringing up my Pella commercial. It's just fantastic. Debbie and Vince and the crew there, they help find the perfect fit for our home during our free in-home consultation. Then we visited the local showroom to make sure that our selections were the perfect choice. And the installation experts that did work on our home, man, they were great. They were professional, they were courteous, they were on time, and they left our house cleaner than they found it. Call the Omaha or Lincoln showroom or go to PellaOmaha.com to find out how you can get $100 and new windows and doors starting at $122 a month. That's PellaOmaha.com. And the Nick Bob Podcast is brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems. It is the leading Solaire authorized distributor for Nebraska and Iowa. They go to market via local distributors to make some of the best air compressor and ancillary compressed air equipment in the industry. So if you are in manufacturing, food processing, refineries, transportation, utilities, maybe you work in a body shop, a car dealer, automotive, countertop makers, like I go on and on, but you get the point. For any and all air compressor needs, think Peerless Energy Systems. Peerless Energy Systems has you covered. Go to peerlessenergy.com. That's peerlessenergy.com. HurrdatSports.com. And the Nick Bob podcast is brought to you by the Brickway Cut Spike Lucky Bucket family. So I've had the Brickway and Lucky Bucket Oktoberfest beers. They're fantastic. Had the Brickway Pilsners right here for the YouTube audience. Those are delicious. And then I've had the Brickway bourbon. We've had the Cut Spike bourbon on Bo Ruud's 40th birthday party. Was fantastic. I tried this Cut Spike whiskey with this BDN cask finish. Very smooth. Was very good. Yeah. I mean, they have mastered the whiskey game. Yeah. You need to try that one. So you need to check them out. Great brewery, great distillery. They are located in the Omaha La Vista area, 4 blocks south of 120th and Giles. Shout out to the Brickway Cut Spike Lucky Bucket family. Okay, my friend. Let's talk about this offense, because we do need to talk about Dylan. You bring up Dylan and just not like it does seem like he had a groove to him early that it seems like ever since that interception against Rutgers, he's not been in as good of a groove. Basically, the whole second half of that Rutgers game and this whole game, he's looked a little clunky. He's whether it's what Clapp, just ball handling stuff, different things like that. There were some open guys where he just would miss them. Yeah,
his accuracy has been, I'd say at some point from like Purdue Rutgers, it's sort of like
waned and dwindled a little bit,
and that's okay. Like,
yeah,
I'm actually like, I think we should always say like Dylan, to me, I still like the way I see him is still like, this is a really good football player.
Yes.
But we just have to we got to be honest about what we're seeing. And this is sort of like his freshman slump a little bit, right?
Yes.
Like this is the guy's, is he 18? Is he 9? I mean, he's
whatever
a
it is,
young guy, but
yep.
Let's be real. Like he was just not accurate this last game for him. Mm-hmm. We've seen him accurate. This is him inaccurate. Right?
Yeah.
He was missing bad. And like, even and he was having some trouble, I think, like rolling left, and just some of the decision-making was not what we've normally seen.
Now, to be fair, I think we can acknowledge all of that, but also to be fair to Dylan Raiola right now, he's got no run game.
None.
No run game. And whether it was, I think Clapp was talking about it a little bit on the broadcast, but even Brady Quinn and Liner were talking about it in the pregame and halftime and stuff for as good as Banks and Meyer are good for just kind of like big body possession kind of guys. I don't know how their top end speed, I think, is okay. And those guys pointed out there aren't a lot of guys getting open down the field.
No, I don't think they take the top off the defense. Number one, those guys do not do that. Like those guys aren't. Lloyd comes in to run the deep route.
Yes.
Right? That's the only guy that does that. But I don't know that anybody's great at getting open. Right. Just getting open. They're not great at that. They're not great route runners to me. Like they just disappear. Usually when you disappear, because you're getting covered. It's too easy. It's too easy to be covered that easy.
Yeah. And so to defend Dylan Raiola, he is a true freshman. This was his first real road game. Like the Purdue game.
Purdue was bad enough.
Purdue brought to you by nap time. It's like, come on. It was Purdue's a mess. But this first real environment against like a team that appeared to be real, and you need help. Like someone needed to, like Westy would get open just here, like I'll get open, or Amir or whoever would be like, listen, I'll get us into a manageable down and distance. I'm going to make a play and take it 20 yards here. Like nobody was doing that. And then he's left to kind of have to clean up all of that. Yeah. So in his defense, there's a lot of things that aren't going great around him, but it did seem like there were times where he had time to throw, and clearly nobody was open.
Nobody was open. That's right. There's nobody open a lot, and his first big pick, it's a 4th down play. Like these are plays that they're plays you force it on, like kind of naturally, like when you're behind. Or if it's like a 4th down situation, got to have it. So like that's when you force it more than you normally would. Like part of the gift that he has is a young guy who's a lot of talent who takes, he only takes what they've been giving him for most of the season. He's protected the football by that. this was the first time where some of it is on him and some of it's not on him. Some of the circumstance, like they put him in a place where like, we got nothing else. You got to go make it happen too soon under bad circumstances that he was having to force it. Right.
Yeah.
So these are plays where he was just pressing, I think. Like
yeah.
he was pressing. He made some bad throws. They were a little inaccurate, but like we're not putting him in a great spot by protecting him with like running the ball, then play action game, making some easy plays, getting some rhythm. It felt like it was too much. Just like, save us, Dylan.
Yeah. And that, because you even the one near pick six. I mean, it's fourth down. You don't want to just like
you're not taking
take a sack.
You're not taking a sack.
You got
throwing it right, but you don't want to throw it away. But it is a got to have it. It's fourth down.
It's fourth down. You're down. What was 28-7 at that point, I believe. You got to try to make something happen. I'm not saying like hey, yeah, just throw it up for grabs, but you got to.
You're not throwing it away.
You're not throwing it away or taking a sack there. But even on I think his second pick, there was a corner blitz that Emmett Johnson didn't see and pick up. And so he scrambled and he ends up throwing it.
And Barney rolls up as he throws it. So it's one of those, like when you see it from the other angle, you realize like, oh, there was a guy there, but he's rolling left and he's pressing. They're down. You got to make something happen. If you're up, I mean, maybe he proceeds differently,
which has been what the whole season's been. He's been able to take what the defense give him. Don't take a bunch of risks because they've been playing with a lead almost the entire year.
Okay. On that note, this is a definite hindsight question. We win the toss.
Yeah, I had that.
Do we is taking the ball against that offense the right move? I mean, this is such a hindsight's 2020, but it is a strategy question. And Matt Rule said, well, think about our defense, right? Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense. But when you look back at it, you go, but we want the ball out of that offense to start the game. Like that's maybe something where the next time we're in this situation against a good offensive team, do we want to start with the ball?
Even maybe this weekend against Ohio State.
Yeah.
Same scenario. Do you want the ball first to keep that offense off the field? You can't go script a drive and get up 7-0
when we've been best.
Yes. And then the game subtly shifts at that point.
Yes.
I thought about that. I thought like I typically 99.9% of the time you defer. When you win the toss, you defer, and it's just like almost always right. But sometimes
the way that game went, it made me rethink. Like when you are a uniquely good offense, that's the only thing. Like I think between Colorado and them, they're the two so far that I've seen. I'm like, we may want to think differently against great offense.
I agree.
Because I know what our defense is capable of doing if we don't like settle the ship a little bit.
Right. So let's talk more about this offense because, I mean, the stats are not good. The rush offense, 99th in the country. Total offense, 88th in the country. Scoring offense, 91st in the country. They average 25 points per game. Now, against power conference opponents, they average 20 points per game. It's hard to envision this team scoring like 35 points right now. It's hard. Matt Rule was asked about the offense in the post-game press conference, and I'm generalizing what he said here, but I thought it was spot on in that he talked about just how nothing is easy right now.
Yeah.
And I agree. And I think everything comes back to what we talked about a little bit ago. Offense is hard when you don't win one-on-one. Nebraska's backs don't make guys miss. The first guy almost always brings them down. Nebraska's wide receivers on the perimeter. Indiana ran a lot of the same plays that Nebraska ran, but they
can block.
They could block.
Our guys get penalties. They get a penalty every time they basically block.
That's right. Yes,
it's terrible.
Do. Like basically any blocking that comes out on the perimeter that Banks is near blocking, it is almost always a penalty on Banks. And you can sit here and we can cry and all the officials, all this stuff. I mean, it's now 7 games into this thing, and every game
we are getting flagged on the perimeter. Like they're not learning or they're not doing it right. Like you just can't block in the back if it's close. Don't do it.
Yes.
I don't like all the calls, but don't do it. If it's even close, don't do it.
There's the amount of times as I was charting plays, I just said, like, make a block. It seemed like a couple of times, a little pop pass, Raiden catches it, and the lead wide receiver couldn't make a block.
They can't make a block, but on the other side, it felt like they could.
And yes,
we were getting blocked.
Yes. And so I whether it's bad tackling or couldn't get off of a block, there was a lot of either yards after catch or yards after contact, however you want to look at it on the perimeter, because I felt like Indiana's perimeter blocking was vastly superior to Nebraska's.
Yeah, and I know we're talking offense, but I would just also add to that point. Our DBs, like I said, they just didn't look like they were moving fast. Everything was a step behind. So like their cushion was too much. When they would come up to tackle, they would just leak an extra 3, 4, 5 yards. And so all these times were like, these drives would be in a more of a manageable situation that kept making it like almost easy on them to keep it going.
Yes.
And you look, why do you think they didn't punt? Because we just let it all leak. It was just leaky and soft versus like when your corners and your safeties are flying
and
tackling. It sets such a tone psychologically to the offense where they go like, ugh, we got no space. It feels like these guys close the space. And when you don't, it feels like, isn't there infinite room to run and throw? Like there was no force. There was no like psychological, like, this is my zone and you're not coming close. There's something about that with football where like, it feels like there's either no space or there's all the space in the world. And really the only thing difference is just how much you're anticipating.
I couldn't agree more. And what's odd though, was everything that we just described, I would have said Nebraska was excellent at a year ago.
Yeah.
Like they were a pretty damn good open field tackling team last year. And it's just bizarre to then turn on the film this year, and in particular that the Indiana game, and go, what is, it's hard to believe that's the same defense with largely the same guys. But
we just lost Newsome, so it's Newsome basically, and then Tommy's hurt.
Newsome,
Tommy last year, and same other. I mean, it's
Omar Brown.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like we don't look like ourselves in the secondary.
No, there's something, and I don't know. I mean, there was a change in coaching, the secondary coach.
Yeah,
whatever it is, but. And I know we're talking offense right now. We've gone on the defense, but it's fine. Like, there's something that secondary is not playing well. And in particular, it's getting beat in one-on-one passing situations, and it's not tackling great.
Yeah. And just the speed is what I'm like, is reaction time. Like to me, it's like when you see us like flying up, that's what I want to see. And it just feels like we're always a step behind right now.
And I hate to do, like, it seems like Singleton is a step behind a lot right now.
He's had a couple I think he's had a couple rough ones. I mean, the Illinois in this game, it was just rough.
It was rough for him. Now he made the great play, and I thought one of the coolest plays of the season was his play on the goal line stand against Ruud. I thought it was just an amazing play. So I mean, he's capable, but it's not good. Back to the offense though. I mean, nothing is easy right now. It's hard for them to even my wife watching the game, she goes, how come when Indiana has the ball, like when they throw it, there's just nobody's around the receiver. My wife no one seems to be around them when they're catching it, but then Nebraska, there's always a whole bunch of people around them. I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, at some point here, we're going to have to talk about the coaching too. Well, that's, I don't know how much more that's what's tough about this is like
there's some one-on-one, like physically, can you do it? And there is an aspect of Urban Meyer said at halftime, he goes, he watched film and he thinks Indiana is the best coached team in the Big Ten. That came out of Urban's mouth.
Yep.
I take what Urban says as like close to fact as you can. I think that guy has seen so much football in his life, and he is so elite at breaking down what's happening. When Urban Meyer says that, I think it's probably there's something there. Like he's seeing something that me and the average person don't see, right? We're not breaking down the film. He is like, he's literally, but he's seeing like little things that they are doing very right. And so it's hard not to compare ourselves. It's not maybe the best thing in the world to do is to only compare ourselves to Indiana after we play them, right? That's not where, but like we have to, and Matt Rule is probably going to have to take a good hard look at how well coached are we in all these different areas. You start going
position
by position, unit by unit. Where are we? This is a healthy time to do that.
No one's calling for anybody's head right now, and it seems stupid to do that right now.
It's the middle of the season, like we're 5-2. This is not when you do that. This would be very counterproductive for the program to even. But Matt Rule, that's part of his job. His job is to make sure, are my coaches elite or are we just okay? And that's what he's got to know that. And he's got to decide that and snuff it out if it's not elite. That's part of what his job is. So I don't have the qualifications to say that right now, whether I think this guy, I don't know. I don't get to see him every day, right? But Matt Rule does.
I think if you're just going through like, we're in a room and we're looking at a PowerPoint and just position coach names come up. And you go like Terrence Knighton, defensive line coach. You go next, good, fine. Like I'm good with him.
Tony White, we're pretty much like I think we're okay.
Good. But guys like you go Garrett McGuire. You go. We'll talk about it. Put him in the. We'll talk about it.
Special teams
coach. We go. Yeah, let's put him in the. We need to talk more about that. You go Marcus Satterfield. Like, we maybe need to put him in the. Like, you go EJ Barthel, running backs coach. You go. Yeah, let's maybe put him in the, and that's all we're saying right now. Like, I don't know what else to, because again, axing people right now is silly. It's I don't think that's what, I mean, they're still 5-2. They could, they got a lot to play for here, but I agree. Like,
I mean, this guy, so we're trying not to do too much. Why aren't we Indiana? That's a bad way to think. Like, we got to be the best version of what we can be. Like, we got to focus on us. Right. But it's like you said, how do you explain away? Well, he brought all his staff from James Matt. Like, it's not like he just went and found some like all-star cast. It's guys that he knows. Right. So I don't know that that's the problem. I think the problem is like, you just have to be honest with your assessment. Do you think that we are top to bottom elite? And I don't know that. I don't have the answer.
I don't either.
I would trust Matt Rule to make those decisions, but I don't know. It's felt like that. Like they were dialed in, prepared across the board, and we were not. And so you got at some point, is it just talent? Is it a combination of talent and maybe some holes in how we coach and how we communicate and prepare? I don't know.
Yeah. And in totality, it's just more often than not, this offense has had this offense goes into these lulls.
Yeah.
Where whether it's 2 quarters of just like nothing. And you looked at last year, and again, the whole explain it away. Like, well, okay, they missed on Jeff Sims. They had injuries. Like, okay. Well, this year, knock on wood, they've really had no injuries. They have, while he's still a freshman, a really talented dude at quarterback. And they're not, I mean, again, their scoring offense is 91st in the country, total offense 88th in the country. And I get that it seems like they're built to want the defense to lead them, and they're not asking the offense to go out there and score 45 or 50, but a part of that could be because that the offense can't go out there and score 45 to 50. And whether it's a talent thing, a coaching thing, it's all a thing that has to get addressed at some point. But it's what's funny is, and I don't want to, I mean, a part of this pod and being a fan and you don't want to overreact, but the interesting thing about football is you only get 12 games to react to. So there's like, you do kind of like, it is a game-to-game thing. to a certain degree because you just don't get that much to go off of.
They're all big.
They're
Every
all
game
big.
matters.
So you're like, oh, calm down. Like I hear you, but like what was funny was like a lot of our preseason concerns showed up in that game. What were our concerns? Nebraska's skill. How dangerous is Nebraska's skills? But running backs, wide receivers, how good are they?
No.
We were concerned about Nebraska's corners.
Yeah.
Struggled a little bit. Like overall, though, it's interesting how it's pretty sobering when I'd love to see the all-in NIL investment into Nebraska's offense, just Nebraska's offense compared to Indiana's NIL investment of theirs. And Indiana's skill looked way better than Nebraska's skill.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. Like I'm thinking through these things, like really trying to go, what happened? Why do I feel like we're back to being a different team? Like we shouldn't feel that way. So I don't know. I'm really trying not to overreact because
it's hard. It's
a lot of things
hard
inside go
to.
like, man, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard not to.
After that game, it's hard not to. Most of the time Illinois, you lose in overtime. You just had you just lost your mind in overtime. You can breathe, all that stuff. Like this one, losing 56-7 at Indiana, it's hard to not ring the alarm bells pretty good with
Purdue,
that.
Nick, you don't get to go back and play Purdue now.
No.
You get to go play Ohio State.
That's the thing that is.
So you think Indiana's good? Talent-wise, this team is so much more talented than Indiana. It's not even funny.
And they're pissed off because they just lost at Oregon. They've had a bye week. Just stew on it. Dive into film. It is scary right now because what is scary is what you hope doesn't happen is back-to-back weeks of getting your doors blown off, and that derails you. And all of a sudden, we've talked about how this team's in this program is maybe a little more fragile mentally than you think. Like you go get beat 52-10 on Saturday, and now you have back-to-back weeks of just getting absolutely eviscerated.
Yeah.
That's a hard and oh, by the way, coming to town is UCLA, your most quote unquote winnable game left. Just things are setting up in not a great way.
I've been to Ohio State's stadium where we got 60 put on us. It was it's a bad feeling. Couldn't be a worse week for us to play them. I mean, it's going to be hard to dream of a win up there, but I mean, you never know. I mean, like let's
crazier things have happened.
I mean, this team, we're going to learn a lot in the next 2 weeks because Ohio State, I mean, we'll see if we're going to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Will we play and be tough and give them a game, give ourselves a chance to win it. And then it's UCLA after Ohio State. So if we lay 2 eggs in a row, the thing is we've got Dylan, right? That's a big deal. We've got him, but Dylan is 18 years old and he hasn't gotten a lot of games under his belt. So he still has to develop his leadership, his, fastness to get through a season and to take the highs and lows and keep doing your thing. Like he's never done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we still got to develop him in that sense. And so we need everybody to play good football and let Dylan sort of develop and give him a chance to be something great. Like you have to support him in this journey to get us to the next level, right?
Yeah.
You can't throw him to the wolves right now and potentially set him back.
Yes. And this gets back to now we talked a little bit. This is where the defense needs to be the thing that leads this team. And I hate to do this back and forth on the defense thing that, after the Illinois game, a little bit of the Northern Iowa game where it was a little down on them and then they rebound and they play well against Purdue and Rutgers and then this, but it's hard, but I don't know. I mean, what the WTF was that?
Nick, they almost didn't force them to punt. That puts them in the category of our historically bad performances,
yes,
those are the historically, they didn't have to punt against you.
Right.
You didn't stop them. You could never stop them almost.
No.
That to me means it's the biggest wake up call they have. And they're lucky they're sitting at 5-2, bowl game still on the table, all these things. But like those leaders and those vets, those guys have to show it. Like I didn't hear Ty Robinson's name one time, right? Butler, not one time. Nash, not one time. Gifford, I don't think I heard Gifford's name once. I didn't hear
Bullock didn't really do a ton.
Tommy, you name it. Like who made a play? Nobody. Somebody's got to make a play. Bayer made a play. But we can't have another game where no one flashes at any point. You got to flash. You got to do your job, and in some point, you got to make a play, right? Like I think back, you described that touchdown run, the jump cut, so on that play, if you watch the replay, they call it like a cross dog. So across the center, the linebackers each go across. The center basically pancakes Bullock, blocks jab and right.
Yep.
Gifford's free. He gets lost in the mesh.
And here comes Singleton.
Singleton's one-on-one. No chance. We had basically four guys on that center. They win.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 3-on-1.
No, I know what you're saying.
Essentially 3-on-1 though. Like they double shot us with their guy. Like that to me is like that. Those kind of plays can never happen again. Like you cannot allow a team to impose their will on you like that.
Yeah.
And you can't as a unit all be made. Like there's four guys that just couldn't do it on one play. That's a team effort. That's not just one. That's the team effort. So we've got to be better.
Yeah. And that defense they're old, they're experienced. A lot of them came back because they're sick and tired of this and they wanted to be the one to kind of change this thing. Like now's the time. Like this is a big stretch, obviously for Rule and Tony White and those guys, but it's a big stretch for Gifford, for Ty, for Jamari, for like those guys are the dudes like that. They got to go change it.
They have to calm the waters and just settle things down. They've got to do it. Like they've got to play well, because this is what leadership is about in my mind, is like when they need you, like you got to step up. It's a signal thing, right? When that happens, the team follows. They go, "We're okay." You know, it's something about people. That's just how we work. We need the leaders to lead and do and make the plays, because it's like will calm everybody else
for
down.
Sure.
The way that happens, and so those guys have got to step up these next two games.
But man, I mean, it is just. I heard Sip say this, and I think I'm in agreement with him of like, he thought that defense was trending towards elite, but his comment was that conversation is over. You can't claim it's over.
Nope.
No elite. Try to imagine the 2009 defense like that happening to the 2009 defense.
No,
it ain't happening.
No.
Okay. So that doesn't mean this defense is terrible. It just doesn't mean that, we statistically over the course of the first 6 games and what you maybe thought was like, man, this might be a top 10 defense. Top 10 defenses don't let that happen to them. They had 343 yards at halftime. They played their backup quarterback the entire second half.
And this is where we should be kicking ourselves is
this is an opportunity.
We hurt the guy. We hurt their guy. So like we were so uncompetitive in the first half that the break came at the end of the first half, and it didn't even matter.
No,
it never mattered that they didn't have their guy in the second half. Nick, it's crazy.
I know.
We were blown out so bad that like the opportunity was like we just had to like hang on. We just need to keep to like 21-7 and get to the second half, and we couldn't do that.
Or just score on the first drive and make it 28-14.
Yeah, keep it a game.
Turn
the top. But like we didn't want to play it all.
I know
we didn't. And that's disappointing.
Yes.
It's very disappointing.
Because sometimes, we do this thing of like, oh man, they wanted it more. And I always hate that, but it didn't seem like Nebraska had a lot of fire. And nobody seemed like they wanted to.
I always think of it like, it's almost like boxing, right? Like one guy's on his heels and one guy's not. And it was so obvious. It was like, they knew what they wanted to do.
Yes.
They knew what we wanted to do. Like we always come out with the jab cross and they're waiting for it. And then they just beat us to the body. And then we're like, it's like, it felt like that. Like you're in a fight where after about a round or two, you're like,
oh man,
we're about to get knocked out.
And you and I have both been in scenarios. I've been in games where you're the one, like you're ready to play. You're the aggressor and you just come out and deliver that first blow. Yeah. You can feel you got that team totally on its heels. And that's a great feeling.
It is.
And never once did Nebraska feel like they were ever on their toes in that game.
It's crazy.
So I don't know what else to say about the defense.
I don't want to overreact because like I've been a part of teams where it falls apart, and it's like, it's the head coach's job to make sure like schematically everything is what it needs to be.
And then it's
the coaching's like
agree.
And not all head coaches know that. They don't know. I think Matt Rule does. So for me, I don't even want to go down that route with all these, with our current coaches, other than like, this is just a little signal that we need to be on alert to make sure everything's right.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's time for changes. Not at all. It just means we got to be on alert to like, hey, let's make sure that this is what it needs to be. Is this elite? That's what I say. It's like, is this elite or is it just okay?
Right. And I think this shows you, and I think this is something that is always interesting when you look at a team. Clearly, Nebraska's margin for error on a variety of levels is really thin. And if anything slips, it can get away from them. And so they got to tighten up. Special teams, I mean, again, it's a disaster right now.
And that's, I mean, let's be real. That is like, there's no bigger signal than like, we can't catch kicks,
kickoff.
We can't snap. We can't hold. We can't kick. I mean, that special teams unit, we've got to like, that one is like 1A for like, you want to take a hard look. Cause like, we are not doing things right.
But what's amazing about that, cause I completely agree, but what's wild is special teams has been bad for a long time.
Yeah.
Through different coaching, for different coaching staffs, different, like it's, we've talked about how the names and the faces can change, but the turnover issues have remained the same. Well, also the names and the faces can change, but pad special teams has kind of been a constant. And for a while with Frost, it was like the frustrating thing was like, you got to get a full-time special teams coordinator. That's what needs to happen. Like they have one and it's a disaster. And those are their morale killing plays. Not only are they, there's the field position element of it where there was a punt I thought it was in the first half. Clapp pointed it out and it was the camera was behind Buschini so you could see it. The snap was bad. So Buschini had to go to his right and go down to his shin to catch it. Then he had to rush the punt because it was going to get blocked. And then they returned it or I think he shanked that one and it went out of bounds. Like, so there's a tangible and an intangible effect to this bad special teams that but again, I do not, guys, let me look at the kick. Do not normalize not being able to kick a 30-yard field goal. Yeah. Let's not normalize this. It's bad. It's going to cost you. It's costing you games.
It's terrible.
Game balls, literally nobody. It just like, we brought this up as we wrap up. Besides the Michigan game last year, and they won the national title, so you kind of just go, well, whatever. And then a little bit of that Colorado game, but at least it felt like the defense played well for like a half.
You see it with your eyes. You see, is this good or is this bad? And like points can get away from you, but like you see the way they played. They were sacking Shadur. They were being aggressive. They were playing fast. There was a lot of good things they did with the it got away from us because the offense didn't help.
Didn't help and turned over in big spots and all
that.
This
is not that. This felt like regression to some of those yucky years.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, so to kind of circle back to we talked about it at the top of like it's hard to explain away because like basically yesterday we're recording to Sunday that Indiana game 56-7. That's the first time there's been a game like that under Rule. And even
Frosted didn't happen.
Frosted didn't happen a ton. They had that one cold game at Minnesota where it got away from them a little bit. Remember, it might have been in year 2.
Oh yeah.
And then they had the Chase Young, Justin Fields Ohio State came to town and blew them out.
But we were still playing the if game even on that.
Yeah,
one.
but
we were playing if.
But again, that's like the Michigan game where you go, I mean, you weren't ever going to win that game. But so I guess the thing that's crazy is it feels like it's been a while.
It's been years.
As much as Nebraska's been losing, it's been a while since there's been a game like that.
Yeah, our issue had been, it was been more about like winning close games. We've had this like clutchness.
Yeah.
How to put it all together, red zone, late game. That's been the thing we've been talking about and emphasizing, because did we get over this like just blowout loss thing? And it crept up today.
Yeah. That's what's wild. Is it? I remember one of the things we talked about last year was like, the blowouts have gone away a little bit. That's good, but
that was progress.
That was progress where it just that's what made that 56-7. That's an alarming one here. Like, whoa.
Because to me, it wasn't like they were better than us, right? They were better. They were more prepared. They played harder, more physical. But like talent wise, still, like it shouldn't have been that. You know what I'm saying? That's what should happen when you play Ohio State and they're on a heater. If Ohio State's on a heater, hold on, right? But Indiana still is not a bunch of 5-stars. They're just like good football guys. They're James Madison dudes,
it's a bunch of James Madison
and a
guys.
Couple transfer guys. And transfers are usually guys that are like.
And I will say this, for as much as that quarterback, Rourke, that guy's good.
Good player. Tall. He's like tall. He can see the field.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. Like that shouldn't, for as much as it did feel like, at least for that game, but this is why it shouldn't feel like that. That game, it felt like literally position by position, Indiana was better at every single position. But deep down inside, that shouldn't be the case.
It shouldn't be that bad. So to me, it's the start to finish, like the will of it. Like we just didn't have the will to be like, we may not win this, but we're going to fight and make it a game at least. That is what we've always done these last few years that have made, it didn't matter if we played Ohio State or if we played Michigan. Usually we would play them close.
Agree.
We'd be worried. Every time we played Ohio State and Michigan, we're like, oh man, it's going to be a blowout. And we played them closer than not a lot of the time. And I don't know. I just felt like we didn't have the will, which is we've had that.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre too it's one thing to not have the will when it's a lame duck season. Even like the year that Frost got fired and Mickey's the interim head coach and you're Oklahoma, playing like you're just going, okay, I mean this season's just toast, right? But that team went and won at Iowa. That team went, and that team still fought and hung in there and was one-score games more often than not. It's just bizarre to have that much to play for on that stage and to come out and play with that level of emotion. That's the thing about football. It's one of the unique things about football is like, if you're not in it, it's not going to go well. Like football's
like, it wasn't Jerry Maguire, the agent's like, if you don't got it here,
this doesn't matter. If you're not right here, this doesn't matter. But it's right. Like if you don't have it here, you better not. That's what happens.
Dude, that was that one we're gonna be scratching our head about all season.
You can sit there and go, oh, everybody calm down, breathe. But like that's an alarming one. I don't know how anybody could go, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's gonna be like I'm trying to not overreact, but I'm on alert.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference. Like I'm not. There's no brushing it aside and just saying it's okay on to the next one, right? Like I think you don't overreact. You don't want to say the season's over.
No,
let's go do something drastic. I don't think it's that. I still think we got to get back to the process, get focused. But we're on alert that like there's something in there that's ugly.
They showed the spectrum of what this team can be. Clearly that version of them obviously is in there, and that's scary.
And yourself, I mean, this game, it's a brutal game. Like it's almost like the Serengeti. Like if you show weakness, get ready, because when you show weakness, everybody else, there's no sympathy. They're like coming for it.
When the lion starts chasing and it sniffs out that,
they're looking for the one that's like, oh, he's kind of limping. It's built in. Like, they're coming for the limping one, right? Like, they're going to come take a swipe and see they can, like that's what happens. And you never want to put that on film, man. Like,
all right, let's wrap it up. Certainly not a lot of humor today, but it's hard to.
I think we should go check the post.
Yeah. Pottersville?
Yeah, let's go.
Mary, Mary, running back, Mary.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.